What's up with it, Rivals fans? Well, it's official. Daredevil has officially been confirmed as a duelist in Marvel Rivals Season 4.5. But what if we could see the man without fear across all three roles? In this video, we'll explore Daredevil as a confirmed duelist, plus reimagine him as a Vanguard strategist, each with their own playstyles and mechanics. Alright, let's get to it. Okay, first up, let's look at Daredevil as a strategist. He'll be a 300 HP hero that focuses on vision, utility, and ally sustain. First up, his passive, Sonar Pulse. Every 4 seconds, Daredevil emits a sonar wave, revealing enemies through walls about 15 meters, and allies hit by the pulse are here for about 30 HP. That'll be his primary source of healing outside of his ultimate. So pretty much it'll be like passive healing. Think Ultron, except for centered on him. His basics are called Guiding Strikes, and that just does debuff to enemies hit about 10%. Since it would be the first melee strategist, I think that'll be a good incentive to get them in the fray. Yeah, the increased HP and the debuffs, that way he'll be more like a frontline strategist, not back of the line, like somewhere in the front with the tanks. And that'll lead us to his next ability, which is we're going to go with Baton Guard. We'll save the ultimate for last. So Baton Guard is pretty much a shield that he can use for himself and others. The only other strategist I've seen with the shield is Invis, correct me if I'm wrong. 12-second cooldown, 3-second shield. I think that's pretty good for a melee strategist. So it gives him a little bit of utility while he's in the fray, a little bit of sustain. Second ability is called Reposition, where he can quickly dodge towards the nearest ally, granting them 20% damage reduction for 3 seconds. Cooldown 10 seconds. That'll be a nice little defensive tech. That brings us to Daredevil Flip, which is pretty much his escape. Jumps high into the sky. Think Moon Knight, something along those lines, just so he can get out the fray in case it gets too hairy for him. That brings us to Echo Sense. It creates a large sonar field about 20 meters that reveals enemies, highlights weak points, and grants allies plus 25% cooldown reduction for 8 seconds. Allies inside instantly heal for 30% of their max HP. This will be the second and the only of 2 ways that he can heal. That pretty much brings us to the team up. My idea is him and Spider-Man with a team up. Anytime Spider-Man marks somebody with his web shooter, it pretty much highlights them through walls and stuff like that, and gives a 15% debuff, which means that they receive more damage from any of the whole team, pretty much. Next, let's talk about Daredevil as a Vanguard. With 600 HP, this version focuses on disruption, frontline durability, and team utility. We'll start with his passive. Man Without Fear. When Daredevil takes more than 20% HP damage within 3 seconds, he gains 15% lifesteal for 5 seconds. Cooldown 12 seconds. So pretty much anytime he gets a big hit, what is that? 130 HP, it pops, and then 12-second cooldown. And then that brings us to Justice Pool. He fires his baton at an enemy and pulls them into melee range, staggering them on impact. So think Bucky, but with the stagger. So I think that'll be really powerful. It's a 12-second cooldown, so it's not like he could spam it too much. But I think that'll be really powerful for a tank. Pull him into the front line, melee tank with their melee damage. Give it to him. And then we have Devil's Roll. Pretty much a somersault that has iframes to dodge projectiles, and it also knocks enemies back. So it has knockback and iframes on a 10-second cooldown. I think that'll be really effective for a tank to pretty much give him some survivability on the front lines because he's still a melee hero. Next, we have Red Wall, which is pretty much his shield, except for instead of being a mobile shield, it's a stationary shield. He plants his batons in the ground and it pretty much creates a shield for 3 seconds on an 8-second cooldown. I thought that'd be a unique idea instead of, like Magneto jumping around and all that. It makes him so he has to plant his feet and stay stationary. So you have to use that strategically. Couldn't just spam it wherever and jump around. Now that brings us to his ultimate, Judgment Drop. Pretty much he jumps high into there and slams down, unleashing a massive AoE that knocks down enemies and stuns them for 2 seconds. So the idea I had in mind was like Doomfist from Overwatch. Jump up, big circle on the ground, he aims it, can aim it, lands, shockwave, stun, chaos, and then he proceeds to wail on you for 2 seconds until you come to your senses and try to escape. And that brings us to his team up ability, Defender's Stand. Iron Fist is the main one that I had in mind, but in case they add Luke Cage or Jessica Jones to the fray, it'll apply to them too. Pretty much it grants allies 15% resistance if they're near him, or maybe as a button press to activate, either or, but 15% damage reduction. So, something small. And last but not least, the Duelist class. I had in mind something tankier than the normal Duelist. So think like Mr. Fantastic, so 350 HP, and more like a bruiser because he'll be a melee duelist as well. The passive, Fearless Instinct. If he's ever below 50% HP, he gains 25% movement speed and 15% damage resistance. That'll keep him up, keep him moving, and keep him moving fast at that. First up, his basic, Precision Strikes. He unleashes a 4-hit baton combo. The final hit crits if the enemy is bleeding from sonar counter, a new mechanic, or isolated, pretty much alone with no allies within 15 meters. So that'll make him really powerful in 1v1s in a back alley, or if he can isolate any supports on the back lines when he dives. Let's look at his first ability, Crimson Grapple. Fires ability club to yank enemies forward on impact. Daredevil gains 40%. 40 overhealth. 40% would be crazy. For 5 seconds. Interrupts enemy's ability. Think Bucky combining his uppercut with his pull on an 8-second cooldown for a duel. Next ability is Sonar Counter. It activates radar focus, which reduces the next incoming hit by 50% and instantly countering with a baton strike within 10 meters. Successful counter knocks enemies back and applies bleed, which is essentially 45 damage over 3 seconds. And it grants 80 overhealth. Cooldown is 12 seconds. I think that'll be a really nice defensive tool that can be used for offense and defense, and just pretty much gives him a little bit more sustain because of the overhealth. That leads us to Acrobat's Vault. Daredevil flips over a wall or enemy becoming briefly intangible, aka iframes. Slams down with a kick that staggers enemies on landing in a small little AoE. So pretty much think Star-Lord's somersault, but combine it with a slam down mechanic that briefly staggers them, like a pop-up effect, like when Angela hits you with the full charged spear. Something like that on a 6-second cooldown. So that's what I have in mind for that ability. And that leaves his ultimate, Devil's Reckoning. When he pops it for 8 seconds, he amplifies his radar senses, which allows him to auto-dodge the next 2 ranged attacks. It also gives him 20% lifesteal and puts all his abilities on cooldown 75%. So I think that'll be a really powerful, impactful ultimate that can change the tide of the fight, considering that some of his abilities do give him overhealth. And team up abilities, Echo Strike. When paired with Iron Fist, Daredevil chains a synchronized double strike. Both heroes lunge at a target, dealing heavy burst damage and disorient enemies in the line. So pretty much think Captain America and Bucky, except for it does a little bit more damage at the actual impact zone, and everybody in the path gets a small little stagger. So a little bit more effective than what Cap and Bucky had going on. I think that'll be more useful in battle. So yeah, that's all 3 roles. I know that his kit already been revealed. I planned on making this video before his kit or his role was revealed, but hey, what you gonna do? So if you liked it, like, subscribe. Let me know if you liked my version of Duelist better, or if the official version is still rocking your fancy. If you had a choice, which one would you rather have him? Strategist, Vanguard, or Duelist? Me personally, I would prefer him as a strategist. I think that'd be a very unique role, and we haven't seen a melee strategist before. I would love to play him as that. So anyways, let me know in the comments what you think.